happy birthday. I'm going to talk about Canada, Caitlin, but I am going to start a little bit out in the world because I think it's very important for us to have a kind of snapshot of the global water situation and then come back here. And if I give you some bad news at first, forgive me, I'll give you some good news later, because actually everything that I'm going to describe to you is preventable. We know what we need to do around the world's freshwater crisis, and it is a crisis. We simply haven't done it yet, or mostly haven't done it, because there isn't political will. And if there's one thing that I want to spend from now to my last breath on, is getting the political will around the world to recognize that we have here, in my opinion, the greatest ecological and human rights crisis of our time. It's deeply connected to global warming or climate change, but it's the other half of it, the one half being the greenhouse gas emissions that are trapping heat, but the displacement and abuse of water is actually one of the key causes of climate change. And I'm wanting more and more for this to be put into the equation when we talk about it. So just on the two crises, the two parts of the crises, first of all, ecological. You will remember back in about grade 6, I don't know when it was, we all learned that there's a closed hydrologic cycle, and the water moves through the cycle, be evaporation and vapor, and rains back, and through transpiration is sweated out of the green stuff, the plants and so on, and goes back into the cycle. And we were all taught that there's a finite amount of water that's available that goes through that cycle, and it can never go anywhere. And therefore, we should never worry about it, because we can never run out of water. Well, it turns out that our teachers weren't lying, but they were wrong. They didn't know. Nobody knew at the time that the human species was capable of taking this freshwater gift and actually destroying it or making it inaccessible to us. And we are actually literally running out of water in many parts of the world. It is not just cyclical drought. And the running out part is also extremely important to understand, in that it means we're not talking about a situation where it might come back if we just do nothing. If we do nothing, the situation is going to get worse. Briefly, here's the story. We have polluted groundwater around the world to the extent that many, many, many countries and societies that traditionally used the lakes and the rivers and so on no longer have access to that water. I won't give you a lot of stats, but just two. 75% of India's surface water and 80% of China's surface water is too polluted for drinking, cooking with, or using to fish, just as an example, which doesn't mean people don't use it, but it shouldn't be used. It's so dirty. So as a human species, we have started to take water from places where it was accessible, and it's being moved to places where we can't get at it. So we are now mining groundwater far faster than it can be replenished by nature. And the statistics here again are stunning. Just to go back to India, there are 23 million bore wells pulling water out of the ground 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just pulling that water up. There's a new report from a group of scientists in the UK who say that there's this exponential overuse and overpumping of is a coming disaster for India. And in fact, whole communities will go to bed at night and there's lots of water, and they wake up in the morning and the entire community is dry because, of course, water systems under the ground are all